Hi, it's Dennis Green on KCCK, and pleased to welcome to our studios two special guests, Brian Zeglis from Iowa City West High School, jazz band director there, guest many times on the show, but thanks so much for being here.
Appreciate it, thank you.
And you have a special guest with you who is going to be doing the Jazz Cafe, which is your big winter fundraising event.
Yep, Jazz Extravaganza.
Yeah, at Extravaganza, that's what it is. Justin Stanton, multi-instrumentalist, a member of Snarky Puppy is probably how most people would maybe identify you. So welcome, Justin.
Dennis, thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you in studio with us. It's a real honor to meet you. We've loved the band for many years, and I've been checking out some of your solo projects, of which there are a ton, and it's a real pleasure to meet you in person.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
So we'll talk a little bit about Jazz Cafe and what's happening with those activities in a few minutes, but Justin, let's start with you. Let's start with, as I said, most people probably identify you more with Snarky Puppy. You are not, it sounds like not an original member of the band, joined a year or two in when you got to North Texas. Is that how that kind of worked?
I think Mike maybe started the band in 2004. Brian and I got there around the same time. We were both doing our master's degrees at the University of North Texas. I think we were just talking about it. Brian got there a year earlier than me, I think in 2004,
Yep,
right?
2004.
I got there in 2005. I think Mike maybe started the band in 2004, and I joined the band around 2006. And at that time, the band was mostly a group comprised of UNT students and playing shows locally, Dallas area, and also in Texas. And then around 2006, shortly thereafter, once guys in the band started graduating, we started doing regional tours through Texas, then on into Louisiana and the Southeast, and we kept expanding.
We're expanding concentric circles until it encompassed the entire globe.
And now the route's pretty big.
The band has worked with so many guest artists who have been famous in so many genres. That's got to be very fun to have somebody a la Hathaway or somebody come in and go, okay, how do we fit all this stuff together?
Yeah, it's been a real blessing and to work with so many great artists over the years, and each time is a different learning experience. This January, we're going to record a new record, and it's been 10 years now. We recorded a record called Silva with the Metropole Orchestra in Holland. And we're going to do another recording in January, round 2 with them. And just talking about guest artists, that's a different thing working with an orchestra. But I remember that was one of the most starstruck times I can remember ever being. In the room with that orchestra after hearing so many great recordings over the years of people who I idolized playing with this orchestra. And then being in the room with them was really a singular experience and something I'll never forget.
For all the things that Snarky Puppy has done, you really haven't gone into the studio that much and recorded as a band.
Yeah, we certainly made our mark. I think once we switched to this format of live in-studio recording, starting with the record Tell Your Friends in 2009 or 10, and we did that for a long time, and then we figured we'd switch. Maybe Silva was like the last record that we did with the Metropole Orchestra, and then we switched back to this format of doing records in the studio, and we did a couple like that. And then the most recent record we released called Empire Central, we recorded in Texas, reunion, homecoming, homage to Texas and the roots, as it were. And we recorded that 2 years ago. Yeah, we've been at it 20 years now. So whatever we can do to keep it fresh, because as people, we're not so fresh anymore.
You live in Lisbon, Portugal.
Correct.
How did that come about?
The main reason my girlfriend is Portuguese.
That'd do it.
So I was telling Brian on the way here, we were together for about a year. We started dating in 2019, and Snarky Puppy was supposed to have a tour in Europe around March of 2020.
And we kind of know what happened there.
Yeah. So obviously that got canceled, but I had a flight booked already to go visit my girlfriend, and I went to go visit her. I took the flight, and I think lockdown in Portugal started like 1 or 2 days after that, serendipitously. I was there with the suitcase, and I was just like, there was no plan to stay, but then we just took it week by week, and things felt right. And 5 years later, I'm still there. I love it. My girlfriend and I are still together, obviously, and I haven't looked back, so it's been super nice.
What's the music scene like in Lisbon?
It's very diverse. My girlfriend's she's quite well known in the country as a fado singer, and fado's a folkloric style of music from Portugal. For people that aren't familiar with it, I usually say there's like similarities to flamenco music. It's a very emotive music. It's like the Portuguese version of blues music. very emotive, very strong emotional music, and very acoustic. There's usually the conventional format. There's a female singer with 2 or 3 guitarists, one playing like classical guitar and one playing Portuguese guitar, which is like a mandolin. So that was my introduction into Portugal and Portuguese music. I played music with her. But since then, I've got to know a lot of great musicians in way different pockets of music: jazz funk, jazz fusion, traditional jazz. The great piano player Aaron Parks has just moved to Lisbon recently. So there's a lot of people actually moving there, a lot of Americans actually, in the past couple of years. The scene is growing quite a bit.
Your new album that you just released, Claro e Escuro. How's my Portuguese is not good? How'd I do?
I understood you. No, it was great. It was perfect. It was great. Yeah.
Light and dark, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So for Snarky Puppy in 2023, it was just last year, we had a pretty heavy touring year, and we did a tour through South America, and a buddy of mine who also plays in the band, Chris Bullock, we all got to school around the same time. He was also a fellow UNT alum. Also plays in Snarky Puppy. He had been spending quite a bit of time in Rio de Janeiro a year ago, and before the tour we did in South America, he'd contacted me and said, "Hey man, do you want to? I've gotten to know a lot of great people down here, a lot of great young musicians. Would you want to, like, at the end of the tour, go to Rio and record some music?" And I said, "Of course, I'm not going to pass that opportunity up."
Yeah, let's go to Rio.
Yeah. So Chris is such a great networker. He's so good about getting out in the scene and meeting people. So he had met this great community of young, really great musicians in Rio. It was great. We just walked into the situation and met this guy with the studio, and we spent a week there, and we recorded some music. I had some songs, and he recorded some songs, and we recorded with a bunch of young musicians there, and then mixed the record remotely. He lives in Asheville, North Carolina. Of course, I'm in Lisbon, and the mixing engineer's in Rio, so we would get together online, and we would do the mixing sessions. And then we put it out, it's probably been 3 months now, 3 months ago or something, and that's out now. So, yeah, that's the latest thing we've had going on.
Yeah, I really like it. There's just many influences in there. You can hear what's going on with you in Lisbon, and of course the South American, but then there's stuff that's really just straight ahead too.
For sure. Yeah, and we joked about it a little bit that the name came from my songs because we didn't write the songs together per se. We produced this record together. But Chris's tunes had this more of a dark aura to them, and mine were a little bit brighter. So we decided to call it Claro e Escuro.
For those who aren't familiar with the Jazz Cafe, how does it work?
All 3 bands. First off, we will transform our cafeteria into a little winter wonderland. There'll be decorations all up. Little jazz cafe with a winter tinge to that. We're excited this year. The building's under construction. We finally get to work the debut thing of a new little commons area just outside the cafeteria, so we're excited for that. All 3 bands will play throughout the night. We'll have beverages, desserts, all that sort of thing for you, and it's a great night of jazz and a great night of community.
Of course, you'll spend tomorrow kind of having Justin work with the band a little bit and do some clinicking and things like that. Justin, headed into a situation like this, working with young students, sure, you'll listen and you'll figure out what you want to do after you hear where they are and go. But I'm also sure that there are some things that are universal when you come in and work with young musicians. Talk a little bit about your clinic style.
Sure. Okay. I know that the program at iWest is really strong. It's a really strong program. And actually, I was here, I think 6 or 7 years ago with a friend of mine named Dan White, who's a saxophone player.
We know Dan.
Dan?
Know Dan.
Okay.
Yep.
So Dan and I were here, and it was great then. We worked with Rich Med in his program, and so I'm familiar with how strong the program is. That being said, we were joking on the way over here because Brian was saying there's also there's music production classes here, and the choir director leads the classes, and he's really well versed and went to school for these music production classes. Maybe you'd want to talk to the class. I said, well, I'll probably end up learning more than they'll learn from me. And sometimes in these strong programs, I feel like the student rather than the teacher. And it's great to be with young people and learn what's going on and what makes them tick and what gets them excited. But that being said, there's always things to work on, and I think it really boils down to listening and being open to them and seeing where they're at and meet them where they are, whether it's improvisation or what they should be checking out or influences or listening, fundamentals, kind of like going with like with the user manual per se, but just having all the tools and being as ready as you can to respond to whatever situation presents itself.
Yeah. You have to start with listening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Brian, what do you hope the students get out of this?
I know they're going to get inspired from it. That's the big reason why I reached out to Justin. I know they're all excited already. I have lots of students that went and saw last year when they, I think, hit Des Moines. So lots of kids excited and just ready to go, and I know they're going to leave this just inspired to keep pushing forward.
It's the Jazz Cafe, Saturday night, the 15th at 14th? Where are we at?
14th.
Yeah, 14th. Saturday night, the 14th at West High School in Iowa City. Do people buy tickets in advance? Do they get them at the door? How
They
does
can
that
get them
work?
at the door. That's what we're doing.
All right. And what are the prices?
$10 for adults, $5 for students and seniors.
Best music bargain in town.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Justin, I know you've had a big travel day, so we're going to let you get a meal and probably get some rest before you have a big day with the students. So thank you both so much for coming in. I hope you have a great time, and I'll look forward to hearing reviews later of how things went, but I know that it's going to be a great time. Thanks for being here in Iowa, Justin.
Cool. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you both for being here.
Thanks, Dan.